maybe it's me, but even if I check the focus afterwards on the LCD, it's soft when I get home and check it on a big screen. Sometimes it would be nice to be able to adjust the focus afterwards. Panasonic has released a firmware upgrade for the FZ300, the G7 and the GX8, adding a feature that they call Post Focus. After taking a photo, touch the screen to focus the image on that object. Isn't that an amazing feature? There is one drawback. Post Focus produces only 8 megapixel images. Here's how it works. Turn on Post Focus on the menu, page 3. Note that Post Focus mode is not compatible with HDMI output, on the FZ300 anyway. For fast access, I'm using the custom settings to assign it to F4. Now, pressing F4 displays the selection screen. Would be better if it just toggled. I'm leaving it off for a second to set the scene for you. Auto ISO, aperture priority f2.8. I've set up cat and dog from my FlexiZoo about 50 centimeters apart, dog about 30 centimeters from the lens. Using the lens's zoom rocker, I'm setting a 35mm equivalent focal length about 100mm. Manual focus, using the dial on the lens, dog is at the close end, cat about halfway. Clearly, if I take a photo, only one will be in focus. Turn post focus on and the composition changes slightly. Press the shutter, watch the FZ300 scan the scene, take the picture and show the photo. Touch dog to focus dog. Touch cat to focus cat. The camera actually takes multiple images, one at each available focus distance. Turn the large dial to see them all. Note that some are red, where I assume the camera was not able to capture a focused image, likely as there's insufficient contrast to detect a focus point. There were some scenes where I could focus in manual, but post-focus mode could not. That may be a peculiarity of the FZ300's lens configuration. Press Menu to save an image. You can do this now or at any time this file is on a memory card in the camera, so no rush. There's no option. This is a 3328 by 2496 pixel JPEG image. There's an on-screen prompt to press F2 for peaking, and zoom, which helps visualize the focused edges to determine the exact focus detail. The post-focus file itself is an MP4 movie, 2 seconds long. I've slowed it down so you can see the individual frames. That's cool and all, good demo, but what happens in the real world? Well, first, it's kind of slow, a considerable delay between pressing the shutter and taking the image, which means the picture might escape before I take it. And as it takes time to capture all of those images, things move and focus, which seems to be determined before the capture starts, may change, leaving nothing of value. So it's clearly best for certain kinds of shots. Of course, if single-shot autofocus was going to miss, post-focus might miss as well. The real fun of this feature, of course, comes in Photoshop, where you combine several images, a technique called focus stacking. Close-ups and macro photos often have a very narrow depth of field, with only a small part of the image clearly defined. By taking multiple images at various focus points and combining them, a photo that has a depth of field greater than the lens is capable of can be created. As you can see in this image of decaying tulips, scanning through the focus points with peaking on, there are several subtle changes in focus. Process is fairly simple. Open the MP4 file in Photoshop, trimming the file if possible to eliminate any shots at the beginning or end that are clearly not useful. Use Export Render Video to save them as JPEG files in a Photoshop image sequence. Use File Automate Photo Merge to import, but don't blend yet. One more chance to eliminate any files that aren't useful, and then edit Auto Blend Layers and stack images. Now the pedals are sharp from the very back to the ones closest to the camera. Using this feature is making me think about shooting just a little differently. And the small sensor of the FZ300 does make getting a shallow depth of field a little challenging, so I'm looking forward to exploring this feature further on the next generation of Panasonic cameras.